Today, we're on podcast number 4, Progressives, but they are actually socialists in progressive clothing. You've heard the word socialism bandied about by some Democrat members of Congress and some Republicans as well. I'm going to demonstrate to you how they're planning to have and incorporate a new one world government or global government, and how their agenda mirrors that of the Communist Party's agenda of 1963. Google Communist Agenda 1963 and you can follow along with me. Lots of progressives, from Dwight D. Eisenhower to Pope Francis, want the new global government, and I will prove that to you. So let's see how this progressive connection to the end times spoken of the Bible happens. I'm going to shrink myself into a smaller frame so that I can show you in detail what you're up against. So let's go. So here I am in a little small area of the screen here now, but I'm bringing up the different facets of progressivism and how it connects Bible prophecy to Iran, Israel, Donald Trump, and now progressives and this new world order or global government that they want to see achieved. So hearing it, seeing it, and reading it should get it into your brain to where it should be. Behind me there is the United Nations building, currently in New York. Okay, so let me continue reading this. Progressives, get to know them. The roots of liberalism with which we are familiar lie in the progressive era, and progressives have an agenda. The progressives' freedom is refined as the fulfillment of human capacities, which becomes the primary task of the state, of the government. Progressives' goals redefines freedom to mean the state or government controls every facet of human life. Your education, how you should think, what you should eat, you see it in the news. Property, which the state, by the way, would like to confiscate from you. I'll get into that a little later. And then below that says progressivism. Progressivism is the support for or advocacy of improvement of society by reform. By reform really means they wish to control how everything comes to fruition. It's control. You'll see that when I get into their agenda. You'll focus on the word control. It is based on the idea of progress. That's crap. That's why they use that term. I call it communist socialists in progressive clothing. And what they try to do, or their philosophy, is based on the idea of progress. Again, it's a nice term, right? Nobody really knows who they are. And progress, which asserts that advancements in science, technology, economic development, and social organization are vital to the improvement of the human condition. In plain English, what they're trying to tell you, and they're going to try to force upon you, is that you're too stupid to know how to control and run your own life. They want to give you what they perceive is utopia. That's crap too, because what these powerful people want, you'll see who these people are, in this new world order or global government, is to totally control the people and totally control every facet of human life. So let's move on to the next block, shall we? Now, I've posted this little placard up to show you that you might think that the progressives in the New Democratic Party wrote these scripts and these placards. Well, let me show you the bottom one. It says, class struggle in the raw. Donald Trump's war on American workers. See how they paint the picture of Donald Trump being against American workers, while all the time Trump's the only one, the only president who is bringing jobs back to America. But you would think that progressives or Democrats wrote that. And the little caption below that says, the working class billionaire is the most anti-worker president in history or in memory. To the right and the top, it says, we're not going back. This is a take on the president telling a couple of Congress women to go back to where they came from, which he never said, by the way. He said, if you love your country so much, your country of your heritage, why don't you go back there and fix the ills of those countries, then come back here and complain about America? But anyway, this picture shows, first of all, blacks. I don't see a white person in the placard. And it says, is community self-defense the answer to fighting racist terror? Racist terror. Progressives, Democrats, right? We demand, I've already given it away on the bottom side to the right, but let me read it anyway. We demand measures now, not later, to isolate and defang the extreme right, meaning Republicans, and that means addressing their influence, meaning the Republicans, in all areas, starting at the top in government, business, and so forth. Nope, these are not progressive or Democrat placards. They are posted by the Communist Party USA. Go there, .com. CommunistPartyUSA.com. People and planet before profits. My point here is to show you that progressivism, socialism, is a gateway drug, I call it, toward communism. Communism is the goal of this progressive power struggle that's going on in Washington and all across the planet. But let's go and prove some more of these with another placard, shall we? And here's yet another set of placards. Sounds like progressives in the new Democratic, socialist, left wing of the Democrat Party, right? Look at the one below. Stop the war on women. See? You'd think progressives wrote these cards. Abortion. Care is health care. They're pushing. It says, take the pledge to stop Trump. See? Everything is stop Trump. That's what progressives, you think socialists want. And they do, but they're copying or mirroring communist propaganda. This was taken from Communist Party USA, as you can see in the bottom. But anyway, it says, take action. Then to the top right, it shows Trump like yelling, screaming, ah! Right? It says, for a massive vote in 2020 to reject racism, meaning Trump and the Republicans, expand democracy, which means expand the progressive party in the Democrat socialist left wing, and advance people's needs. What that means is, this is commie speak, what that means, advance people's needs, is force people to do what we want them to do. We commit to help organize a massive vote throughout our country. Massive vote meaning for Democrats. Now, why would the Communist Party want the Democrat Party in power? Because the progressives, socialists, will ultimately lead you into communism. That's one of their agenda goals. Stay with me, folks, because you won't believe what I'm about to show and tell you. You won't believe it. This one here shows, again, it sounds like progressives or left-wing Democrats writing these placards, but it's not. It's the Communist Party of the USA. It's just communism, worldwide communism, but they have a wing over here in America. So the bottom one says abolish the Electoral College. You know why they want to abolish the Electoral College? Because they feel that a Democrat like Hillary Clinton could have won the popular vote. So they want to abolish the Electoral College, where Trump had like 320 electoral votes against Hillary's 223. but the Electoral College represents each state, red state, blue state, and so forth. To abolish the Electoral College, the communists are saying to do it, which is what the progressives are saying, which is what the Democrats are saying, which is what the Socialist Democrats want. Abolish the Electoral College. It says join the effort to abolish the Electoral College and end Citizens United. Okay, you can look that up if you want to, but my point is here that communists are writing these placards, and that's their agenda, which is the same agenda as progressives in the Democrat Socialist Party. Let me read the top. It shows, first of all, below it, it shows a picture of people with signs, "We want democracy now." This is communist propaganda. Bill of Rights, Socialism. I'm reading it. Socialism is a common sense path to a fairer, more prosperous, and more democratic USA. Socialism is also a desperate necessity as capitalism and its unrelenting drive for profits threaten to make our planet. Communists telling you it's their planet, not yours. So they're saying our, trying to get as many people into their group as they can possibly get in there. It makes capitalism and its unrelenting drive for profits threaten to make our planet uninhabitable. Uninhabitable also means global warming and all the propaganda that they're promoting to say you're going to die in 12 years, like AOC has been preaching from Congress. Let me read on. Working families in America. See, that's us. Working families in America. The 99% between us create all the products and services that make our country, communist speaking, the richest nation in the history of humankind. Now, there's a contradictory right there. Because if ours is the richest country in humankind, who got it there? Wasn't Obama. Trump got us there. I digress. So it says that makes our country the richest nation in the history of humankind. Right. It doesn't make sense that these collectively produced resources are owned by a tiny handful of billionaires. Again, they're trying to promote and propagandize the citizens of the United States to think that just a few little billionaires own all of these big businesses where the little guy is the working class that made them rich. That's what the propaganda is saying here. The fight for socialism. It's a fight, all right. Where is the Communist Party fighting for socialism? What? That's right, in the Democrat Congress. Folks, the power that you have in your vote to vote for the right party in 2020 is paramount toward your freedom and your success. You'll see that more as I unveil the agenda of the communist / socialist / progressive / Democrat Party. Okay, let me finish this off. The fight for socialism is a dynamic process to fulfill the vision of a future of peace. That's crap. Justice and fairness for our nation, commies writing it, and the world. Oh, they want world dominance. The Communist Party, progressives, and one other group wants world dominance. That's a global government. I'll be right back with some more information for you. So now it's time for me to define out of Merriam-Webster's dictionary the word socialism. I have to read it to you because a lot of people just have no clue of what's going on in the background. Socialism. Watch how it compares to the word or the definition of communism, which I'm going to post next. Socialism. Any of various economic and political theories advocating collective or governmental ownership and administration of the means of production and distribution of goods. So it means socialism means the government will own all of the production of goods. What does that mean? The workers and those companies who produce the goods. That's a nationalization of companies and people. Watch, because they're going to include your property. It's a system or society or group living in which there is no private property. Socialism believes that your property should belong to the state or the government. You digging it yet? And B, a system of or condition of society in which the means of production are owned and controlled by the government. And lastly, a stage of society in Marxist theory, transitional between capitalism and communism and distinguished by unequal distribution of goods and pay according to the work done. Okay, you have to know what I know, so I have to tell you, it's a stage of society in Marxist theory. Socialism is a transitional thing between capitalism, which America now thrives on, and communism. So if a socialist tells you that communism is not in their future or your future, they're lying through their teeth. In fact, when a socialist or Democrat socialist is speaking and their lips are moving like lawyers, they're lying to you. I'll be right back with some more information. So here we are back with the definition from Merriam-Webster's dictionary online of communism. You will note that socialism and communist are twin sisters or brothers. Definition of communism: a system in which goods are owned in common and are available to all as needed. Owned in common by the government or the state. Watch. It's a theory, which is Marxist theory, communist theory, advocating the elimination of your private property. Already covered that under socialism. Reading below, it says a doctrine based on revolutionary Marxian socialism and Marxism-Leninism that was the official ideology of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Russia, communist. China is communist. Russia is communist. Cuba is communist. They want America to become communist. Okay. Then below that, it says a totalitarian system of government in which a single authoritarian party controls state-owned means of production and your property. Let me go through that again. A totalitarian system, not a republic like America, but a totalitarian dictatorship run by certain powerful people of government in which a single authoritarian party controls everything. Put it that way. C, a final stage of society in Marxist theory in which the state has withered away and economic goods are distributed equally or equitably. What that means is, I've outlined C again. It's the promise of those who promote socialism, then converted into communism, that the promoters get to control the masses, and they control them by giving the masses a promise that they will get to keep their stuff, which they won't. You've already read. You're going to lose it. You are going to lose your property, and you are going to work for the state, the government, for a paycheck. That's why they're pushing in the Democrat socialist wing of the Democrat Party the idea that everyone should receive a paycheck. Yes, you'll get a paycheck, all right, probably a lot lower than you're making now, and you'll be working for the government. They want united or government-controlled health care. Why? So they can tax you to death to pay for that free health care or free college tuition. Nothing is free. You know it. I know it. The communists, progressives, socialists, Democrat wing of the Democrat Party know in the background that you are suckers. You are gullible, and they're going to promote this, and you're going to buy it. They're going to promote it in the media, which they're doing left and right. I'll bring up something just in between here now. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to skip to a New York Times article as of August 16th, 2019, that shows how the media is manipulating you and your mind. And they are doing so by, they lost the collusion against Trump, the Trump-Russia collusion. They lost all that. So now they got a brand new way of revitalizing the word racism. They want to tie Trump and the Republicans to racism, and that's their agenda for the next 2 years leading into 2020. Be right back with that article that I just discovered. So I have to read, the headline was leaked transcript of the New York Times staff meeting reveals leadership's plan for reporting on Trump for the next 2 years. See, I don't make this stuff up. There's a picture behind me of the New York Times in the newsstand. Now, let me read excerpts from the discovery of this leaked agenda of a guy named, let me see if I can, Baquet, B-A-Q-U-E-T, with the New York Times, setting up this meeting and trying to tell the staff of the New York Times, this is our new agenda for the next 2 years so we can try to defeat Trump. The initial headline the Times posted in a preview of the next day's paper read this: Trump urges unity instead of racism. Well, that didn't fly with a lot of anti-Trump, Democrat, socialist, progressive people across the world. So they complained. And it says that title inspired strong rebuke from many on the left, including Democrat presidential candidates. In response, the Times quickly altered its title, or changed it completely, to Assailing Hate but Not Guns. They just twisted it. Trump assails hate, but he didn't say anything about guns. Next paragraph. It got trickier after something inaudible was said. It went from being a story about whether the Trump campaign had colluded with Russia and obstruction of justice to being more head-on story about the president's character. They tried to assail the president's character once they knew they were losing this Trump collusion scheme, which it was a scheme. It was a coup of the United States presidency. Anyway, next paragraph. Baquet, that New York Times bigwig, then admits that the Times had built our newsroom around covering the ultimately debunked narrative that Trump colluded with Russia. You see, the New York Times admits here in their staff meeting that it was debunked. They knew it was debunked, but they ran the first 2 years headlines about Trump-Russia collusion and obstruction and you name it. Okay, I'll move on. We built our newsroom to cover one story, collusion, and we did it truly well. In other words, we indoctrinated and brainwashed a bunch of people, especially millennials, especially in colleges, by professors. We did it, said Baquet in comments highlighted by the Washington Examiner's Byron York. Now we have to regroup and shift resources and emphasis to take on a totally different story. What is that story that they talked about in the New York Times newsroom agenda setting meeting? After gliding over the hard reality that the Mueller's exhaustive 2-year, $33 million investigation found no substantive evidence of collusion, Baquet then laid out this vision for coverage of Trump for the rest of the next 2 years. The New York Times wants to focus on nothing but racism and division. New York Times, we want to focus on racism and division for the next 2 years in our New York Times, and we know that CNN, MSNBC, and all the other liberal media are going to report what we say. So we're going to establish this new focus on racism and division, and we're going to tie it all to Trump and the Republicans. You get it? Progressivism. The new agenda of the New York Times is called the 1619, that's a year, project. It's a race-baiting, revisionist history. The New York Times wants to rebrand America's founding to make slavery a central component. Under the auspices of something called the 1619 Project, the Times seeks to rebrand history and make the issue of slavery central to America's founding. What this means in plain English is this. It is their attempt to further divide the country over racism and the Trump and Republicans, that slavery, that the founding of America was not when it was by real history, but as of 1619, when slavery came about. And it's going to be about slavery is what America built its foundation on. The slavery, racism, and division. Of course, when you bring up racism, it causes division. At least they think it does. Between blacks and whites, between whites and Asians, between whites and Hispanics. The whole reason for progressives in the Democrat Party and communism is to divide America. If you create a division, instead of making everyone united, the United States of America, then they've accomplished their goal. Don't let them do it. Be right back. So speaking of communists, what has come to my mind is Nikita Khrushchev back in 1956 said he was the chief communist in Russia. And he said, "We will bury you." And Donald Trump recalled this and he made a statement. I'd like to read that to you. And the prophetic words from communist Nikita Khrushchev when he was pounding his shoe on the table at the United Nations and also in a meeting he had in Poland in 1956. This is a message from Donald Trump. He said, "Nikita Khrushchev sent chills down my spine. I was 9 years old in 1956 when I read that Russia's communist leader, Nikita Khrushchev, said, 'We will take America without firing a shot. We do not have to invade the United States. The communists will take America from within without ever firing a shot, and we don't have to invade the U.S. to do it. We will destroy you from within.'" That's what communist Nikita Khrushchev said to America. Many of you are probably too young to remember it. So this is why I bring this stuff up right now. Trump goes on to say, "I distinctly remember thinking at my tender age of 9, that will never happen. And now, at age 73, he says, I'm horrified to see that Khrushchev's words are coming true." And folks, they are coming true. Without ever firing a shot, communist, socialist, progressive, Democrat Party are trying to absolutely take control of America from within without ever having to fire a shot. Be right back with more proof. I wanted to bring up this guy because progressives, communists, socialists want to remove the border, southern border in particular, but they want no borders for the United States of America. Why? They want to let in 1 billion, if they could, new people from Guatemala, Ecuador, Mexico, you name it. Let them into the country, send them welfare checks using your tax money, and get them to vote Democrat. But this guy, Carroll Quigley, the late Carroll Quigley, by the way, he's dead, visiting his father, the devil, of Georgetown University, professor and CFR member, I'll get into that in just a second, stated in his book, Tragedy and Hope, the CFR, is what he said, the CFR Council on Foreign Relations, it is the American branch of a society which originated in England and which believes that national boundaries should be obliterated and a one world government should be established. Simply stated, the goal of CFR is to influence all aspects of American society in such a subtle, gradual process that one day Americans will wake up and find themselves in the midst of a one world system. You're reading that above my head, calling for a new world order? This guy is calling for a new world order. He's a progressive. He's a commie. Anyway, be right back with more progressives. Now here, for your edification, I'm trying to bring you some power, meaning some knowledge. See what's going on in the swamp, in the background, in the murky waters of politics worldwide, and more closely for you here in America. Here are some of the people's names who are part of this Council on Foreign Relations, which also give advice to a very secret society called the Bilderberg Group, which I'm going to cover in just a minute. But these are the people in the Bilderberg Group who rule the world, not just America, the world. Powerful, rich people. Secret. Okay, some of the people are, I put arrows next to them. Tom Brokaw, the NBC News anchor, Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, Barbara Bush, the daughter of President George W. Bush, Lyndon B. Johnson. I always knew he was a progressive. These people are all progressives, by the way. Dick Cheney, 46th vice president under George Bush. Chelsea Clinton, you all know who she is. Bill Clinton. Ooh, I'm surprised that he would be on the Council of Foreign Relations, who give secret advice to the secret Bilderberg Group. Who else? George Clooney, an actor. Up to the top right, we read where Michael Douglas, another lib, progressive, socialist actor is. Richard Dreyfuss, remember him? Lib, actor. Next is Timothy Geithner. He was the former Treasury Secretary for Barack Hussein Obama. And down below that, you see David Gergen. I think Rush Limbaugh calls him David Rodham, meaning Clinton, Gergen. Anyway, he's an author and an anti-Trump activist. And a former White House staffer to Richard Nixon. Alan Greenspan, remember him? Federal Reserve Chairman. He's married to the, I'm going to say communist, but I'll say columnist, Andrea Mitchell. Gary Hart, remember him? Caroline Kennedy, daughter of John F. Kennedy. And then there's John Kerry, no surprise there, Edward Kennedy Jr., Ted Kennedy, and Henry Kissinger. Of all these people, Kissinger is probably one of the very first ones within this Bilderberg Group who really are promoting for and campaigning for, even at his age now, for a one world government. And I'm going to prove that to you. There's no secrets here. You're learning stuff that you never knew before, hopefully. Right back. So now here we are with the secret Bilderberg. See the lady with the sign, New World Order? Bilderberg Group wants to, by force, by power, through influence, through the media, through money, want to establish a one world order, a new world order, or a global government. That's the term they're using lately, because they're afraid that if they say new world order, it has a biblical consequence, which it does. So they're saying a global government. Okay, let me read some stuff. Their goal is to, 1, have a stable strategic order run by them. 2, what's next for Europe? That's on the Bilderberg Group agenda that they had a secret meeting here a short time ago. What's next for Europe? They want to control what's going on in Europe, the Brexit situation, so forth. climate change and sustainability. They want to push the agenda of climate change. The climate changes every day. You know it and I know it. They want to talk about China. China, by the way, is one of the 5, along with Russia and the United States and 2 other countries. I can't remember who off the top of my brain right now. But these people run the United Nations Top Security Council, 5 of them. Their votes are what pushes agendas. Okay, stay with me. They want to talk about Russia, again, a communist state, China, a communist state, and the future of capitalism. Now, why would the Bilderberg secret group want to talk about capitalism? I think you already know, but I'm going to say the words anyway, because they want to change out capitalism for what? Socialism, which leads to, it's the gateway drug to communism. Right. You are learning. That's great. They want to talk about Brexit. That's the Europe talking about. The ethics of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence means that when they gain total control over artificial intelligence, that will replace almost certainly manufacturing jobs and other jobs, but it will also replace, it will also think way better than the human brain how you think. And they can alter your thinking using the media and artificial intelligence. And then the weaponization of social media. They want to weaponize. Are you listening? They want to weaponize Facebook, Instagram, and so forth, social media. What does that mean? They want to weaponize it. They want to use it to get their agenda accomplished. And I'm going to cover their agenda real soon. And then the importance of space. The importance of space to Donald Trump is he wants a international space force, American Space Force, 6th branch of the military. But these people would rather inform the use of space for strategic purposes to other actors, if you know what I'm talking about. And then there's cyber threats. They want to know, you think they want to know how to prevent cyber threats. Secret groups want to know how to use cyber threats. Okay. Founded in 1954, the Bilderberg meeting is an annual conference designed to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. Every year, between 120 and 140 political leaders and experts from industry, finance, labor, academia, and the media are invited to take part in the meeting. These are the CFR group members that I have already gone over with you. They pick 120 to 140 of them to show up at the secret Bilderberg meetings. And they want to get their input, of course, and military leaders too. Okay, it says the Bilderberg meeting is a forum for informal discussions, yeah, right, about major issues. Keep reading. The meetings are held under the Chatham House rule, which states that participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity or the affiliation of the speakers nor any other participant may be revealed. Why? Because it's secret. The meeting is closed to reporting journalists. Why? Because they don't want some conservative journalist to be there and record stuff that they're talking about. That's why, in order to encourage, this is crap, the highest level of openness and dialogue. Well, if it's highest level of openness and dialogue, why is it a secret meeting? Why is it a secret group? Thanks to the private nature of the meeting, the participants take part as individuals rather than any official capacity, so that when President Clinton shows up, he's not there as President Clinton or President Obama. They're there as Barack Obama or Bill Clinton. Get it? And hence they are not bound by the conventions of their office to uphold the Constitution of the United States, for example, or by pre-agreed positions. As such, they can take time to listen, reflect, and gather insights. There is no detailed agenda. Oh, yes, there is, and I'm going to point it out to you. No resolutions are proposed, no votes are taken, and no policy statements are issued. All they're doing at the Bilderberg secret group is gleaning information from the brain power, military power, media power of the world so that they can get to their end result agenda. Now I'm going to show you what it is. Yes, I had to bring up our chief progressive, our chief one world order guy, Henry Kissinger, back in the Nixon days, and even blabbing around these days. This guy is viewed as the intellectual, the policy-making guy. Everybody listens to him. But let me go on to just show you the book he wrote. Henry Kissinger, World Order. That says it all, right? So I'm not making this stuff up. Henry Kissinger wants a new world order global government. Henry Kissinger, top architect of the new world order. It says the plan. Today, Americans would be outraged if the UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. If they entered Los Angeles now to restore order, today, people would complain. But tomorrow, they will be grateful because Kissinger and the progressives, communist, socialist, Democrats have a plan, an agenda. Let me keep going. This is especially true if they were told that there was an outside threat from beyond, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. That's coming. Going to be a crisis coming. I'm going to point out what that is. I already have in the Iranian Connection podcast, Israel Connection podcast, and the Trump Connection podcast. But I'll review that. The crisis coming is Israel will do a preemptive strike on Iran because Iran is threatening to wipe Israel off the face of the world. Okay, so now I've let it out there. It is then that all peoples of the world will pledge with world leaders, Bilderberg Group, New World Order, the global government that's coming. It's then, with the crisis that's coming, that all the people of the world, I'm underlining it, will pledge, they'll actually clamor with the world leaders to deliver them from this evil. Oh, help us. We can't do a thing by ourselves. We need government leaders to fix this big problem, this crisis. That's what they're aiming for. Crisis is coming, folks. And it's biblical. The one thing every man fears is the unknown, Kissinger says. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished. Get it? Your rights, your freedom, will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by their world government. Folks, you should be sweating by now. This is Henry Kissinger. Everyone, a Republican. Not really. Progressive in Republican clothing. Henry Kissinger, in an address to the Bilderberg meeting at Evian, France on May 21st, 1992. That's what he said, what I just read to you. Again, a crisis will evolve, this is my writing, when, for example, Israel does the preemptive nuclear strike on Iran, then the world will clamor for a global government, global laws, and a global military. Okay, be right back. So, surprise! Guess who else is calling for a new world order, a global government? Yes, Pope Francis, the Catholic Pope, the leader, the spiritual leader of the Catholic religion, the Pope, Pope Francis. Oh, let's see what he has to say concerning calling for a new world order. Headline: Pope Francis calls for the end of sovereignty and the establishment of a global government. That was done on June 27th, 2017. Speaking with Ecuador's El Universo newspaper, the Pope said that the United Nations, that's where it's all going to happen. That's where the vote is going to be. Let's establish a new world order, a global government with the United Nations, and then we'll appoint new United Nations power people. Okay. So the Pope says that the United Nations doesn't have enough power and they must be granted full governmental control. I didn't say it. The Pope said it. Okay. And he says it's for the good of humanity. Joe Wolverton, II, Juris Doctorate. At a meeting of the Pontifical Academy held recently, Pope Francis, shown in the white, advocated a policy of decreased national sovereignty and increased global unity. A shift toward globalism, which I've been telling you now and preaching for years, a shift toward globalism is necessary, the Pope said. He said in order to fight climate change, see, progressivism, and other worldwide threats. When a supranational common good is clearly identified, it is necessary to have a special authority, meaning the UN, legally and concordantly constituted, capable of facilitating its implementation. In other words, it's imperative that we have a new global government. Supranational, I'm giving you the definition. It means transcending or beyond the borders or scope of any one nation. So no nation will have borders under this new global power. There'll be one ruler with a cabinet of 10 nations according to the Bible, and they will rule the planet. It's coming. Who wants it? Among other people, Henry Kissinger, Pope Francis, and we're not done. More people that will surprise you, perhaps. So just before I get into the agenda of the progressives, which is going to floor you, it's going to scare you to death because they've already accomplished almost 95% of their agenda, and the only one stopping them right now is President Donald J. Trump. But the goal of World Federalist Movement, that's another group. There's their logo I'm showing up there. And the World Security Community. It says here, the mobilization of the peoples of the world to bring pressure on their governments, your government, and legislative assemblies, your Congress and Senate, to transform the United States organization into world federal government, a global government. They want to transform your government, America, into what? A world federal government by increasing its authority and resources and by amending its charter. When they say amend the charter, they're talking about amending the charter of the United Nations to be able to form this one world government. Okay, here's what their agenda is. Number one, universal membership. The world federal government must be open to all peoples and all nations. That's crap because they're going to form the powerful people to run this thing. And so you and I and the guy over in Africa or Egypt or wherever, human beings mean nothing to these people. Number two, limitation of national sovereignty. What that means is the United States, Europe, whatever, they're going to have a limitation of their authority. The Constitution of the United States, gone. Second Amendment, your right to bear arms, gone. Number two, let me keep going. And the transfer to the world federal government of such legislative, executive, and judicial powers as relate to world affairs. They will form a new court system. And I'm going to tell you now that they're going to have a court system run by Sharia law. What is that? The progressives, once in power, are going to bring their friends from Islam into the fold of world power. Because progressives do not want to be the guy that beats people up or kills them and throws them in a jail. But Sharia law, they hate Jews and Americans in particular. Any infidel, anyone who does not worship Allah, shall be put in prison, put in slave camps, killed, beheaded. Okay, so that's going to happen. Let me go on. 3, enforcement of world law. You see what I'm saying? Directly on the individual, whoever or wherever he may be, within the jurisdiction of the world federal government. Meaning they want complete control over you, and using your cell phone, which I dropped on the floor a minute ago, using your cell phone, they're going to require that you check in with them. And also they're going to be implanting one of these little tiny mini microchips into underneath your skin in your hand or in your forehead. How do I know that? Because the Bible tells me so. It's all predicted in the Bible, but let me keep moving on. It says, so they want to have one jurisdiction under the world federal government, the guarantee of the rights of man and the suppression of all attempts against the security of the Federation, which means you're going to be killed, imprisoned, or put into a slave camp. You like that? I don't. The agenda of this world federalist movement is before the creation of supranational, I've already told you what that means, with the Kissinger report, capable of guaranteeing the security of the world federal government and of its member states. Disarmament of member nations to the level of their internal policing requirements. Let me translate that in English, number 4. They want to disarm America and every other, like Venezuela's already disarmed, a bunch of other places where dictators rule the country. So this organization and progressives, communists, socialists, Democrat Party are trying to get it to the point where your Second Amendment rights are gone. And they're going to confiscate legally your guns. You say, well, I'm not going to give them my gun. Then you're going to be killed or thrown in jail. And it's going to be done. Let me read that again, because they have a plan here. It's called a Civilian International Police Force, which is run only by this global government. They're the only ones who will have guns, and they're the only ones who will be in your city and town. Let me read it again. Creation of supranational, meaning transcending or beyond the borders or scope of any one nation, capable of guaranteeing the security of the world federal government and of its member states. Disarmament of member nations to the level of their internal policing requirements. Their internal policing requirements, as set forth by this new global government, is going to be the International Civilian Police Force. They're going to be in your town, not your local cops and sheriffs. Okay, number 5, ownership and control by the world federal government of atomic development and other scientific discoveries capable of mass destruction. So they're going to confiscate all nukes from Israel, from Iran, who will be gone by then, on my Israel connection. They're going to take control on Russia. They're going to take control of the nukes, which is also biblical, by the way. Number 6, power to raise adequate revenues, directly and independently of state taxes. They're going to raise revenue, all right, from you. Okay. We propose to make use of any reasonable methods, which means force this on you, which can contribute to the early achievement of world federal government to prevent another world war. That's what they're going to say. When does that come about? Please, you got to go back to my Iranian connection, Trump connection, and Israel connection to discover that to prevent another world war is when Israel does a preemptive strike on Iran using nukes, and it's going to be devastation like you have never seen before, and they're going to clamor for this. That's the crisis that's going to bring all of this to fruition, which is also written in the Bible prophecy to bring an end by God, through God's plan, an end to civilization as we know it. So, ta-da! Be right back. So now comes the fun part. I'm revealing the agenda of the Progressives, Communist, Socialist, Democrat Party. I'm reading it because it mirrors the Communist Manifesto of 1963 that is written into the congressional record. Look it up, please. Google Communist Manifesto of 1963, and you will discover what I already know. But I'm trying to bring this to the forefront so that you know. Okay, part number 1. Socialism is being pushed by progressives in the Democrat Party and around the world. We know that. You've seen it. It's in the news. It's part of biblical prophecy anyway. Socialism is the gateway drug to communism. I've already pointed that out and given you definitions of socialism and communism, which is take all your stuff, control all your workers and your businesses, and take your property. Other than that, no problem. Communists know that Americans will not accept communism outright, so they are introducing first socialism to you through the Democrat Party. Now watch. Let me show you items from the Communist Manifesto of 1963, which are now adopted by the progressives in the United States and across the world, really. Watch this. You're going to be shocked to see what I'm going to read to you, and you're going to be shocked to know that they've already accomplished it. And it's going to scare you, at least it should. I don't mean to scare you, but I really do. Because if you're not cognizant of what's going on, then when it starts happening, you're going to panic and say, geez, I didn't know that was coming. Yes, you did, because I told you. Here we go. Here goes. Item number 11 of the Communist Manifesto, now the agenda of the progressive parties. Item 11. Promote the United Nations as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Did I not tell you this earlier? Did you not see this coming? This was written by commies in 1963, actually in 1959, but it went on record in Congress in 1963. Item 11, let me read it again. Promote the United Nations as the only hope for mankind. When are they going to do that? When the crisis develops. And I've already told you what that's going to be. When that happens, then they're going to rewrite the Charter of the United Nations and demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces where you don't have a gun, only they do. Item 15. This ought to shock you. Capture one or more of the political parties in the United States. Made a little note there, but you already know it. They've already subterfuged or infiltrated or took control of the Democrat Party in the United States. I think that started right after John Kennedy with Lyndon B. Progressive Johnson with his secret society and his New Deal. Okay, let me move on to more items because I need to shock you some more. I'm already pooped from just read a couple of items. Item 16, use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights. How many times have you seen the courts, especially under the Obama administration, call violation of civil rights to undermine and weaken basic American institutions? Item 17. This will shock you. Get control of the schools. Preschool, grade school, high school, colleges. Get control of the schools. This is a communist propaganda sheet from 1959 and 63, now adopted by progressive, socialist, communists. That's why I said they're really communists, but they're trying to lead you into communism through socialism. Okay, I think you got it by now. Item 17 again, get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts, which means propaganda belts, for socialism. I'll throw in a little extra here. Bernie Sanders, when he was running for president in 2016, did you notice how all the college kids, school system, propagandized school systems, colleges, all want socialism? Why? Because they've been brainwashed. Why? Because they are mush minds until they get a little bit of age and wisdom on them. And they've never been taught history. They've never been taught anything about America and the founding and the Constitution. Forget it. That's all gone. They're propagandized now. And it also continues in item 17, soften the curriculum. Get control of the teachers' unions. Put the party line propaganda in the textbooks, including homosexuality, teach that, but rewrite history, inform the kids about new social policies. You know it, I know it, come on. But it was a plan by the communists back in '63 to do this. Item 18, get control of all the student newspapers. Why? So they can propagandize the students using the newspapers that all the kids read. Item 19, use student riots to foment public protests against our program or our organizations which are under attack. You've seen college kids rioting, and if you see a protest, it's usually a bunch of millennials, college-age kids, some later high school kids. They're out there protesting. Why? And they're fomenting public protests and causing riots, throwing chairs or tires or bricks through plate glass windows, setting police cars on fire. It's all part of the agenda of the progressives. That's why even the media won't write about it. They'll say, oh, this is what happened. They'll show you pictures because it's exciting to them, and it's pushing the narrative of item 19. Let me continue. So item 20, infiltrate the press. Oh my God, really? You mean they're going to take over MSNBC, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS? Oh, is that part of the plan of the progressive and communists and socialists? The New World Order system? Item 20, 1959-1963. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book reviews, editorial writings, and policy-making decisions. Item 21. Gain control of key positions, that means executive positions, in radio, TV, and motion pictures. Have they done that? Why, yes, they have. That's why you are being propagandized on the radio, on TV, and in motion pictures from Hollywood. Item 23, control art critics and directors of art museums. Why? It says our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive and meaningless art. I made a note here. Please recall how they have used the word control. Item 21, gain control. Item 20, control the press and book reviews. Control art critics. Progressives want to control your every thought, the food you eat, air you breathe, and the fuel you use to heat your homes and drive your cars. They want to control it. No more fossil fuel. No, we want ethanol. We want this, we want that. Whatever it is, it's just a slow step to control you and take your freedoms away, your right to vote on things. They don't want it. They want control. Hope you can sense that. But I digress. Let me continue. Item number 24 of the Progressive Socialist Communist Agenda. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity. They've done that by calling them censorship and violation of free speech and free press. So that's why you see F this, F that, you mother F, everything. Everything goes. Why? Because the communists wanted to take prayer out of schools, back in 1963, just the same year that this got put on record. But anyway, eliminated all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship. Have they done it? Yep. Item 25. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. Again, I don't have to repeat any language because you know it's already there. It's on TV. I think the first time I ever heard it was on a Johnny Carson show. What, 30, 40 years ago? And he used the word, he said, "This sucks." And everybody went, "Ah, what?" And from there it went to, really bad stuff. On TV, in newspapers, on social media, F this, F that. It's commonplace now. Why? Break down cultural standards of morality. Promote porno and obscenity. That's what they're doing. Item 26. Now here's a shock for you. This is back in 59 and 63. Communist Manifesto in the school systems now, in the newspapers, in Hollywood, on TV shows, you name it. Promote homosexuality. Promote degeneracy and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy. And you wonder why the kids today are making whoopee in the back seat of their car. Not that they didn't in my generation, they did. But most parents said, if you sleep with it, you better marry it. Anyway, item 26, promote homosexuality. It used to be against the law to be homosexual. And if two guys were caught in a bathhouse somewhere, they were arrested and thrown in jail. Now, under President Obama, 2009, I think it was, changed it so that gays can marry gays. Guys can marry guys. Women can marry women. And it just keeps going on and on. You wonder, where did that come from? Right there, item 26 on the agenda. Promote homosexuality. They're teaching it in schools. You know it. I know it. Remember? Take control of the school systems. Okay, item 27. Infiltrate the churches. What? Come on. Infiltrate the churches? You wonder why people don't go to church much anymore. This is why. Replace revealed religion, which is fundamental religion, teaching of the Bible, the cross, that there's a heaven and a hell. That's gone. Replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which doesn't need a religious crutch. Discredit the Bible. They tell you the Bible is old, it's an antique, it's not relevant to today, doesn't mean a thing. Let's get it out of the public schools, 1962 and 1963. And where have we gone since then? Right? Mass shootings, that didn't happen when I was a kid in the 60s. People beat each other up. Instead, today they whip a gun out, blow your brains out, walk off, and that's the end of it. Item 27, I want to just emphasize this. Infiltrate the churches. Back to item 26, promote homosexuality. Well, there was never a church before a couple of years ago that actually were homosexual churches. But there are now. I'll be right back. Item number 28, eliminate prayer. I was just telling you, 1962, 1963, prayer, I think it was Madalyn Murray O'Hair, decided to take it to Supreme Court and did, and they eliminated prayer from public schools. Item 28 was said in 59 and 63, eliminate prayer. They do it? Yes. Or any phase of religious expression in the schools. It's kind of depressing to know how we, the voters of America, have let these communist, progressive, socialist people, one world order, global government people, rule our world. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression whatsoever in the schools. Why? on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. They even won that in the Supreme Court. How'd they do that? Progressives in the Supreme Court system? Get out. Item 29. Discredit the American Constitution. You know, your Constitution of free speech, the right to bear arms, and so forth and so on, all these amendments. Discredit the American Constitution. Call it inadequate, old-fashioned, like the Bible. It's out of step with modern needs. It's a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis, which means we got to get rid of the Constitution because it interferes with globalism. That's in plain, simple English for you. Item 30, discredit. Notice it's always discredit. And when I say discredit, I'm talking about the media, the school systems, everybody teaches what they want the kids and you to know. Discredit the American founding fathers. Present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. This is why the New York Times that I already showed you, as of their August 16th, 2019 article in their agenda meeting, is they want to bring about the 1619 program, which says that America was not built on the founding fathers. Instead, in 1619, when slavery was introduced into America, which how many states were there? Few. It was based on slavery, and America was built on the backs of blacks. That's their intent. Discredit the American founding fathers. I've been told and read where George Washington really wasn't a Christian. Neither were half of these other presidents who were, and they promoted Christianity. Discredit them. So they're saying George Washington was theirs, Thomas Jefferson, he was, having sex with the black maids. These guys were no good whatsoever. You know it. I know it. That's what they're teaching your kids. And thank God I'm out of school now. I don't have to, because I would probably raise Cain about it. No, we're not done. Gee, I wish we were. I have to bring you because, probably. Unless somebody did the homework for you. That's my job in life. That's my calling from the good Lord. Item 31, belittle all forms of American culture. One way, I'll stop right there, because one way to belittle all forms of American culture and to fundamentally transform America and America's culture, that's why they want to introduce millions upon millions of new illegal immigrants. The immigrants don't come to America to be Americans. They come to America now to get a free welfare check, free education, free health care, and they want to keep their, Mexican flags, Guatemalan flags, Ecuadorian flags, and so forth. They don't want to be inculcated into American tradition. They don't want to be Americans. They want to be them, but collect checks that you're paying for. Okay, I digress. Item 31, belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the ground that it was only a minor part of the big picture, meaning the global picture. Item 32, support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of the culture, meaning education, social agencies, welfare programs, the media, mental health clinics, and more. Item 33, eliminate any laws whatsoever which interfere with the operation of the Communist Party, now Progressive Socialists, their apparatus. Eliminate all laws which interfere with the operation of the Progressive Party now, like border control, like ICE. They want to get rid of it. Why? This is why, item 32. It's all part of their agenda. It's just unbelievable. I wish we were done, but we're not. We're only up to item 35 on this agenda by progressives. Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. James Comey, backstroke, Peter Strzok, whatever his name is. His girlfriend there in the FBI. All of these people want brought about the so-called Trump-Russia collusion. It's all a big coup. It's all a big hoax. It's all a big fake trying to get rid of and oust President Donald Trump. Why? Because he's interfering with the progressive agenda. He's figured it out. Now, hopefully, you figured it out, especially in time to vote in the 2020 election, please. Anyway, discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. Let's face it, do you trust the FBI anymore? No. Since when? Since 2016. Oh, since President Trump got elected. This agenda item was in 1959 and 1963. Eventually discredit the FBI. They're doing it. We're falling for it. Come on. We got to wake up, folks. Item 36. Infiltrate and gain control of more unions. Unions. Why? Because unions contribute money to which party? Oh, yeah, the Democrat Party. That's right. So infiltrate and gain control of more and more and more unions. Trump, on the other hand, figured this out, so he's creating new jobs for union workers, new increases in pay. So the unions and the line workers and so forth are saying to themselves, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to pay dues because my dues are going toward Democrats and I'm a Republican, let's say. So that is in the court system now, thanks to Trump, to try to get rid of that item number 36. Item 37 from 59 and 63. Infiltrate and gain control of big business. Why would the communists want to gain control of big business? They're anti-capitalists, supposedly, but big business wields power. They wield advertising power. Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he's a lib. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, he's a lib. When I say lib, progressive. All in favor of this power struggle, this globalization of government. That's why they want to infiltrate and gain, what's that word? Control over big business. Okay, item 38. Transfer some of the power from the police to social agencies. They want to get rid of ICE, as you know, but if they have to have certain police functions, then they want to transfer that to social agencies. How? Treat all behavioral problems. You know, the shootings now, the mass shootings, the mental health problems that Trump is trying to address. Treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric disorders, which no one but psychiatrists can understand or treat. Therefore, turn that police activity of curtailing mass shootings and other crimes created by mental people, transfer that to the psychiatric profession, which fits with item 39. Dominate, which means control, the psychiatric profession, and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive control over those who oppose our goals, our communist, progressive, socialist goals. Gain coercive control over those who oppose us. Get it? And use the psychiatric profession and mental health laws to do that. It's just unbelievable, folks. Item number 40. This ought to thrill you. Discredit the American family. Discredit your family. Discredit you and your family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity. Don't fool around, guys. Hey, it's no big deal. You get a divorce. It's easy divorce now. I think Massachusetts, one of the first ones that came up with what they call easy divorce. Where'd they get that from? Item 40. Discredit the family. Divorce rates way up. Why? Promiscuity and easy divorce. They've accomplished it. How? Through the media, through Hollywood, through TV shows. Everybody's got a mistress somewhere. Item 41. This ought to thrill you even more. emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of you. You're a negative influence to your kids. Did you know that? Well, communists knew it. 1959 and 63 emphasized the need to raise children away from the negative influence of parents. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children to the suppressive influence of parents. It's your fault your kids are nuts. It's your fault that they have ADD. It's your fault. So because it's your fault, we want to discredit this and tell the kids in school, don't listen to your parents. They're stupid. They're old. They know nothing. And it's because of them that you're screwed up. You're a snowflake now. Why? Because of your parents. Really, because the schools are teaching them, don't listen to your parents. It's part of item 41. Item 42. Create the impression that violence and insurrection, which means revolting against civilian authority, are legitimate aspects of the American tradition. That students and special interest groups should rise up and use united force to solve economic, political, or social problems. It's okay. That's why earlier you saw they're training students to protest violently, even against what? American tradition. And special interest groups should rise up and use united force to solve economic, political, and social problems. What that means to solve them is to convert people to say, I don't want to even know about this stuff anymore. Let government take care of it. Let the schools take care of it. Let the churches take care of it. I don't want to get involved. Shame on you. I was going to mention something. United Force. Oh, yeah. People like George Soros pay people to go and protest. See signs, Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. You see, it's funny how all the signs kind of read the same. How do you figure that happened? It's paid for. It's protests paid for or indoctrinated to college-age kids to get them out there. They're out there for free. But many groups that are disruptive, blocking traffic, all that stuff, they're paid for with dollars. They'll go. Almost anybody would go. Hey, what? You're going to give me $100 to protest? Give me the sign, man. But that's what's happening out there, and you should know. So I'm going to leave that there with those 42 or so odd items. And I made a note here. There are a few more items within the Communist Manifesto that the new progressive wing of the Democrat Party has co-opted as their agenda. Take control of the Panama Canal and stuff like that, but I didn't figure you'd be interested. So I only highlighted the things that really affect you. And that's the agenda of the socialist, communist, progressive, left wing of the Democratic Party. And some Republicans, as you've already seen, the Bushes and so forth, Kissinger, they're all kind of together leaning toward this one world government. So hopefully you are now aware of what the Democrats and some rhinos, like I said, have been orchestrating for at least the last 60 years. But it fully gained momentum in the 1960s under Lyndon B. Johnson's Progressive Act, like I already said, and his Great Society. That was his first attempt at a new world order. Take care of the poor, misuse Social Security and all that stuff to fund now illegal immigrants. It's crazy. And it accelerated when Barack Obama became the president in 2009 through 2016. He said this: we are 5 days from fundamentally transforming America. And transformation means a complete reversal of the norms. Obama, I think he's the chief progressive now, even over Kissinger. But Obama and the progressives are absolutely trying to fundamentally transform America and reverse from America's tradition, heritage, the flag, the national anthem. You see it happening. You know it, so I don't really have to tell you. It's all part, by the way, of bringing everything to an end. The biblical plan that God has. I know you don't like to hear it, that there's an end coming. And guess what, folks? It's coming soon. If you pay attention to my podcast 2 and 3, and now this one, actually 1, 2, and 3, because 1 is the Iranian connection, you will see how it all unfolds towards what God's planning, where these smart alecks and progressives and commies and all the rest of that stuff, they think it's their plan to have a one world government. God must be laughing in heaven, saying, well, I'm glad to see that they're finally doing what I want them to do, because Daniel 2:21 says, God says this, I control who's the president, I control world events, I put kings in and I take kings out. So everyone that's in power anywhere in the world right now, they didn't just get elected by some quirk or some accident or some vote even. It's done by good Lord Almighty. So now it's time for old Johnny Boy here to get into the Bible part of what the Bible says about the New World Order, the global government, and so on. Daniel, way back in the Old Testament. Daniel chapter 7, verse 23. I'm reading from the New Living Translation because it's written in plain English, so you can follow along with me a little better. It says this, Then he said to me, he is the angel of God, I pointed. This fourth beast is the fourth world power that will rule the earth. I don't make this stuff up. It will be different from all others. It will devour the whole world, trampling and crushing everything in its path. Revelation 13, 16 through 18 says this, he, referring to the New World leader, he required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, executives in the New York Times, wealthy Hollywood actors and producers, great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand or on the forehead. I've already pointed that out with the microchip. And no one can buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast, that is Antichrist, or a number representing his name, which, as we all know, including Hollywood, is 666. Wisdom is needed here, the Bible says. Wisdom by you is needed. Let the one with understanding, you or me, solve the meaning of the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. The Bible says it. Hollywood produces movies that say it. It's in the media. But yet it was first in the Bible. John the Revelator wrote the book of Revelation in 100 AD, long before the New York Times or any of this stuff. Okay, Revelation 13, 7 through 10 says this, and the beast went out. The beast is the leader of the global government. The beast was allowed to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And he was given authority to rule over every tribe and people and language and nation, government. And all the people who belonged to this world worshipped that world leader, Antichrist. They are the ones whose names were not written in the book of life that belongs to the Lamb, is Jesus, who was slaughtered before the world was made. What that means is God had planned to have Jesus go to the cross before the world was made, because he knew when he planted Adam and Eve, created Adam and Eve, and planted them in the Garden of Eden, he would give them a choice. Don't take of the one rule. Don't eat of that tree of knowledge of good and evil. But God is also all wise. So he knew the chances that they're going to fail and sin against God were probably 50-50, let's say. So he would have to have a plan for future salvation of man, so that a sacrifice can be made for the sins of mankind. So let me put it again. Those people who worship this Antichrist are the ones whose names are not written in the book of life. Whose names are written in the book of life? Those who trusted Jesus as their Savior, number one. Number two, in the Old Testament, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all these guys, they sleep in the earth right now. They are not in heaven right now. I'll prove that to you through scripture here as we go a little bit more. But they trusted God. They put their trust in God himself. That's why their names are written in the book of life, and they will not be removed from the book of life. And I'll get into that in Revelation 3:5. So now over in Revelation 19 and verse 20, and the beast, I point out, the beast is Satan, false prophet is Antichrist. The beast was captured, and with him the false prophet, who did mighty miracles on behalf of the beast. Miracles that deceived all who had accepted the mark of the beast. Miracles that deceived all who had accepted the mark of the beast and who worshipped his statue. Both the beast and his false prophet were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur, known as hell, third level of hell, the lake of fire. The final judgment, verse 13 here, says the sea gave up its dead, and the death and Hades, death is the graves, and the second level of hell is Hades, gave up their dead, and each one was judged according to his deeds. Then death and hell, second level of hell, where the angels are bound, there's nobody in the lake of fire right now. So death, the grave, and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, that lake of fire. And if anyone was found whose name was not written in the book of life, he, meaning you, were thrown into the lake of fire. You don't want to go there. Revelation 13:13 through 15 says this: he, meaning the false prophet or Antichrist, did astounding miracles, even making the fire flash down to earth from the sky while everyone was watching. And with all the miracles he was allowed to perform on behalf of the first beast, he deceived all the people who belonged to this world, not the next world. He ordered the people to make a great statue of the first beast, who was fatally wounded and then came back to life. He was then permitted to give life to the statue so that it could speak. Then the statue of the beast commanded that anyone refusing to worship it must die, and the form of death chosen is beheading. That's why, again, I say Sharia law will come into practice with this New World Order, because, as you know, since Daniel Pearl, Islam was into beheading, big time. And to continue with Bible references toward that end time, let's read Revelation 17:13 and 14. They, and I point out, they are the people of the world. They will all agree to give him the global leader, their power and authority. You see what I'm saying? Eventually you're going to, the Bible says this now, not just the progressive that I've already said it and I've already demonstrated that to you, but the people of the world will agree to give this Antichrist, this leader of the global government, their power and authority. Together they will go to war against the Lamb. The Lamb is Jesus. But the Lamb, that's Jesus, will defeat them because he is Lord of all lords, King of all kings, and his called out and chosen and faithful ones will be with him. This is referring to after a period of, there's a 7-year tribulation period, which I've already covered in Socialist Connection. And then during that 7 years, halfway through, a treaty with Israel is broken by the world leader here. It's broken. And at that point is when the rapture of the church is taken up by the Lord Jesus. The Lord and his followers come back after the 7 years are up. The last 3.5 years is when Satan alone is allowed to rule the planet Earth. There's no Holy Spirit, no Christians, and the Lord all up in heaven for these 3.5 years. Okay. At the end of this time, Jesus comes back and sets up his authority in Jerusalem, in the temple, the new temple on top of Mount Zion in Jerusalem. Okay, missed the Israeli connection? Go back to that. So this Revelation 17, 13, and 14 refers to that time. All these people have given the Antichrist power, and the Antichrist and his people try to go against Jesus. But Jesus will defeat them. Okay, 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 2 says this. Headline, events prior to the Lord's second coming. Now, dear brothers and sisters, let us clarify some things about the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Paul the Apostle wrote this, and how we will be gathered to meet him. Don't be so easily shaken or alarmed by those who say that the day of the Lord has already begun. Don't believe them, even if they claim to have had a spiritual vision. Some of these preachers do on TV. Lord's coming tomorrow, send money. Don't believe them. Even if they claim to have a revelation or a letter, supposedly from us. Anybody can fake a letter. Don't be fooled by what they say. For that day will not come until what? Until there is a great rebellion against God, and the man of lawlessness is revealed. He will not be revealed until he goes in and desecrates the newly built temple on top of Mount Zion. I've already covered that under the Israel connection. So the day of reckoning will not come until he is revealed, and he's the one who brings destruction. He will exalt himself and defy everything the people call God and every object of worship. He will even sit in the temple of God. Remember, there's no temple on Mount Zion, right? Yet, claiming that he himself is God. When that happens, the end is it's here. So nothing you can do about it. It's all part of God's plan. Like I said, God has to sit in. Not that he's laughing because the end is coming, but he predicted and said in his prophecy in his Bible, it's coming. And he says, he who has an ear, let him hear. If you have an ear, meaning keep your ear open to what God's saying, then you'll be prepared and you'll know. I'm trying to put in your ear what God's already told us in his word, and what the news is reporting almost on a daily basis that confirm what God has already said is happening. So the good news is found over in the book of Joel, chapter 3. After the 7 years of tribulation and Jesus returns back to earth with his saints to rule in Jerusalem for 1,000 years, the Bible says he then casts this Satan into the second level of hell for 1,000 years. And the Bible goes on to say there will be peace, prosperity, and you will turn your weapons into plowshares, meaning no more wars for 1,000 years. But you have to be born-again Christian to be able to go in the rapture in the first place, to be able to return and live for that 1,000 years on the earth. Wouldn't it be nice to just have another 1,000 years? We live 70, 80, 90 years. It's over. But it's not over, because the spirit, the soul that lives within you and me, it's eternal. And it's either going to spend eternity in that lake of fire, as the Bible already tells you, or you're going to spend eternity in that wonderful place called heaven. And I described that place, by the way, in chapter 1 of my book, Heaven, How Do I Get There? If you want a copy of it, all my books are free. Just go to www.relationshipbooks.com and click on Heaven, How Do I Get There? It paints a gorgeous, beautiful picture of heaven. The streets of gold, the rivers on both sides of the street, the fruit trees that bear different fruit once a month. So there is a calendar there, even though it's eternal. It's good for you to learn stuff. So it's free. I wrote the book, one of 9. Okay. Joel here, let me read to you what he is saying. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God, live in Mount Zion, my holy mountain. Jerusalem will be holy forever, and foreign armies will never conquer her again. All that stuff's over. No more wars. In that day, the mountains will drip with sweet wine, and the hills will flow with milk. Water will fill the stream beds of Judah, and a fountain will burst forth from the Lord's temple in Jerusalem on Mount Zion, watering the arid valley of acacias below. But Egypt will become a wasteland, and Edom, which is Jordan, will become a wilderness, because they attacked the people of Judah and killed innocent people in their land. But Judah will be filled with people forever, and Jerusalem will endure through all generations. It's going to endure forever. Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem. After this 1,000-year period, just to give you a quick fill-in of the Bible, you can go look this stuff up yourself. But after the 1,000-year reign, peace and prosperity, and Jesus ruling out of the temple, and the saints from heaven are back here on the earth in Jerusalem with him, after that 1,000 years, there's still bad people on the earth. What happens then is Russia, China, and other adversaries of Jesus will come down from the north through the valley of Megiddo, which is north of Israel. They will attempt, they're coming on horseback. Some reason, tanks or whatever is gone, but they're coming through the valley of Megiddo, which you know and I know as Armageddon. This is the battle of Armageddon, the last battle that the earth will ever see. Here's why. They're coming down to attack Jesus and Christians or Messianic Jews in Jerusalem. God rains down balls of fire from heaven and consumes them so that the blood of these people fill up that valley of Armageddon, Megiddo, up to the horses' bridles. You know, that's at least, 3 feet deep? A lot of people coming against Jesus. They never get there. They never get to Jerusalem. God never allows it. Just thought I'd throw that in there. So, verse 20, but Judah will be filled with people forever, and Jerusalem will endure through all generations forever. I will pardon my people's crimes, Israel, which I have not yet pardoned, and I, the Lord, will make my home in Jerusalem with my people. I point out here, Egypt and Edom, now Jordan, are probably the Arab countries that attacked Jerusalem after the treaty with Israel is broken. Remember I said Luke 21? Luke said it, I just read it to you. But in Luke 21, the temple will be built. 3.5 years goes by, it's built, it's desecrated by the Antichrist, Satan, and troops will surround Jerusalem. This is where I believe that because Iran is gone, they got wiped out by Israel, remember? So that's why I say that after that treaty is broken, then I think that it's Jordan and Egypt that are the ones who surround Jerusalem and attack it. Okay, so I'll be right back. Hang on there. We'll finish off some stuff. Okay, this is where I introduce videos that back up what I just told you about certain people or events. So here is one of those videos right now.
Certain that we stand at a defining hour. Halfway around the world, we are engaged in a great struggle in the skies and on the seas and sands. We know why we're there. We are Americans, part of something larger than ourselves. For 2 centuries, we've done the hard work of freedom, and tonight we lead the world in facing down a threat to decency and humanity. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
From 1945 and the end of the war through 1989 and the end of the Cold War, we had a worldview. Republican and Democratic presidents alike, from Harry Truman to George Bush, stood for freedom and stood for certain propositions that would make America strong and healthy and grow the middle class and shrink poverty and stand against communism. And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
Nothing less than a new world order. This is the pledge of the world's most powerful leaders, representing 90% of the global economy. Thursday's G20 summit, they say, has changed the rules of the game.
Today, the largest countries of the world have agreed a global plan for recovery and reform.
This is Sky News with Paula Middlehurst.
Well, there have been extraordinary scenes in Berlin tonight as thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. The Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in a new world order, saying he was speaking as a proud citizen of the United States and a fellow citizen.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
We have to shape an international order that can meet the challenges of our generation. We will be steadfast in strengthening those old alliances that have served us so well, including those who will serve by your side in Afghanistan and around the globe. As influence extends to more countries and capitals, we also have to build new partnerships and shape stronger international standards and institutions. This engagement is not an end in itself. The international order we seek is one that can resolve the challenges of our times, countering violent extremism and insurgency, stopping the spread of nuclear weapons and securing nuclear materials, combating a changing climate and sustaining global growth, helping countries feed themselves and care for their sick, preventing conflict and healing wounds.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
So I'm back with this main theme here, and there. And I want to just thank you for reviewing the podcast. Number 1, Iranian Connection. Number 2, the Israeli Connection. Number 3, the Trump Connection. Now number 4, the podcast about the Socialist, Progressive, Communist Connection. Hopefully you've learned some things that you never knew before, and we can move on from there. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time. The next podcast I do, by the way, podcast number 5, it's not planned right now because I'm going to do the podcast as news unfolds, and I can see in my brain, knowing what the Bible says, how they connect, and then I'll inform you of what's going on. Hopefully, I can do that before these events actually unfold before your very eyes. You never know. But thanks again for attending podcast number 4.